This is Michael Luchies, joined here with Jon El Kordi-Hubbard from College Startup. View what they're doing at collegestartup.org. Now, Jon, you've worked with a lot of college founders and young entrepreneurs. What's the most common mistake you see among young founders?
Sure. So I actually see a couple of things, that happen pretty regularly on college campuses, kind of around the U.S. I think, the most striking one at first is people often don't have a clear goal or vision for the product or service. So a lot of young entrepreneurs that I've spoke with, and even myself when I was in school, many people tend to jump in without even thinking, what they want to achieve or how to get there. So it's really important to have a clear goal, an action plan in mind for definitely starting out really early. So you want to have a goal and vision that you want to achieve, with your idea. A couple other things that are kind of common mistakes that I've noticed is that taking financial planning for granted. So not really taking the proper steps to make sure that your business can thrive and stay afloat, even if that means investing your own money at first. And I know for a lot of students out there, myself too, you're pretty cash strapped for a while, so you don't want to invest a couple $100 to get started, but oftentimes that's kind of what it takes to get your project going in school. And also one thing, like taking loans at first when you haven't started can be a negative thing as well, because you're kind of giving up whether it's your own IP or personal equity early on, and you have to meet to other people's goals outside of your own. So I'm kind of a proponent for the be lean and bootstrap while you're in college and use your resources to avoid necessarily having to take those things early. And kind of last is another common mistake is just being greedy. You never want to think going into business that it's really a get-rich-quick scheme. And what I think here is, which is pretty popular, is like the Wolf of Wall Street movie. When they started their firm, they wanted to get rich really, really, really quick, and they did. But what was the end result? They had a pretty quick fall from grace and got into some legal trouble. So I think it's really important to do things in a respectable and ethical way. So you want to try to concentrate on other important avenues, like whether that's positively influencing your clients, your customers, creating a real difference, and really creating something really cool that has a good influence instead of bad influence.
Yeah, one of the co-founders of Upstart, Paul Gu, said to me that he thinks every entrepreneur young entrepreneurs especially, before they begin a startup, to ask themselves if this isn't going to be something that blows up, that becomes huge, that I make millions of dollars, is it still something I want to pursue? If the answer is no, then it's probably not the right fit.
Yeah, that's interesting. I know myself. It's really important to find, kind of an intersection of a market point. And if you find that intersection, tends to be that you can find a really cool avenue to exploit. And if you do find a really creative market niche, you can make some good money too. I think it's just important that you want to be doing it for kind of altruistic motives rather than pure financial motive. So that's one thing that I've definitely been a proponent for.
So looking at the goal, you mentioned goal setting is a big challenge early on and something a lot of founders overlook. What can they do to fix this? How can they have specific goals that they're then reaching for?
Yeah, I think it really comes back to just being patient. As a young entrepreneur, student, business person, it's important to really understand and know that businesses don't grow overnight. It takes time to create a plan, follow a plan, build a team, build a brand, and meet your own expectations. So I think it's important, really to concentrate on doing your best at all times, and and work really, really, really hard, because then you'll reap the fruits of your own the fruits of your own labor. So by being patient, working hard, and realizing that you might not get there overnight. You might get there in a few months, a year, or even 2 years. You want to create a clear plan and follow it to a T, and be patient. And I think to take that even one step further, like kind of once you have that action plan and you've realized that, okay, this is going to take some time. I'm going to follow this plan and do something really cool. It's good to find a group of mentors to bounce your ideas off of, whether it's professors on campus, students that are studying different disciplines than you, I think is a really interesting thing. I was a business student in school, so when I was working on projects, I always made sure that I asked my friends that were in the arts or they were in engineering or in mathematics to get their opinion, because they tend to think a bit differently than most business students do, and they tend to think differently in a good way. So that's an important thing to definitely practice. Speaking to people that have, kind of interdisciplinary skills and natures, So finding a group of professors, students, friends, family, many people that you know, and often that you know close. They've been there and done that, so they have really, really great advice that can be very valuable as you kind of plan that project to grow into the future. And I guess last, is like be willing to admit your fault. Especially as a student, when you start a really cool project, it tends to be like your baby. And even though it is your baby, sometimes you might feed it the wrong cup of milk. So making a mistake is one thing, so it's important to really admit and correct it to make yourself, a better person and business leader moving forward. So own up to your mistakes, try and see where you went wrong, and come up with ideas to kind of better yourself and your business into the future.
And on College Startup, you guys have featured you've showcased a lot of successful young entrepreneurs. What would you say is the most common trait that you've seen in successful young founders?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of two things. I think one, they're not afraid to work really, really, really hard. So oftentimes in school, people get bogged down by classes and clubs, and they also still want to have a social life. So just by speaking and kind of covering these young founders, they're not afraid to give up those aspects. Instead of, going out and partying with their friends, they're keeping their head down on the weekends, and they're working really hard to make their business become a reality. So they're working hard, and then they're taking a chance to go outside of their comfort zone. On a Saturday night when their friends are texting them, hey, we're going out to see this movie. Do you want to come with? No, I'm going to stay in and work on my project to make sure that I beat out everyone else that's there. So they work really hard. They go outside of the box. They take chances, and then they really understand their resources. College campuses have a lot of really great resources that they provide to students. Everything from the library that has tons of free and open workspace there. There are great research books to read if you're doing an analysis of your market. Professors, other students. I mean, there are great things to utilize on college campuses that can really help, take a project and turn it into something really great. So yeah, they're not afraid to work hard. They take chances. They understand what's on campus around them. Some campuses even have, business incubators that they take advantages for. And yeah, they love what they're doing. They follow their heart, and then they just work really hard.
Working in the media space, what's your advice to startups that don't have much of a marketing budget? What are some of the things they can do to get publicity, and what's the importance of getting media attention to their startup?
Yeah, so I think for young businesses that are growing, that want to grow and don't have marketing spend, really is try to find a few really niche publications, whether they're in your area or on a regional level, that might be able to cover you. And that tends oftentimes, that's just reaching out to them via email or going to networking events and trying to find them there too. Because those local and regional publications, it's really important for them to get, recognition for what they're doing. That's one thing that we're really passionate about is we get to meet these really cool college founders, and by us sharing their work that they're doing, it's not only motivating them to work harder, but it gives them exposure to more eyes, in a local, regional, sometimes even national level. So that can be, if you're an app, getting more downloads for your application. If you're a consulting practice, getting more clients. And who knows, even maybe some funding too. We've had a couple articles on the site that have really helped people reach their Kickstarter goals, which has been really great. So my advice, if you're a young startup, or even one that's in college, find a few niche publications and reach out to them, and really form a cool relationship, because they're not only to help grow their site, but they're there to help you too, because that's at the end of the day what's really important is really getting validation for the hard work that you're doing.
Great. And last question here with Jon El Kordi-Hubbard from collegestartup.org. For young entrepreneurs, from your experience in those you've covered on College Startup, what are your overall best tips, your final thoughts? If you had just one or two tips that you could give a young founder to do right now, what would those be?
Okay. I think my best startup tip is, embrace fear, find what you love to do, and work extremely hard to make it become a reality. One thing, now is there are many college students around the globe, around the U.S. People are working on projects all of the time. So the biggest way to differentiate yourself is to find something really unique and work extremely hard to make sure that it becomes a reality. Some of the other things, I've seen that have been successful for college entrepreneurs is, they build a diverse team that's not just with their friends. They find a market intersection to exploit, and then they're continuously pitching their product or service, whether it's in competitions or in class, at events, because that's great for them to get experience, make connections, and even maybe secure some funding. So really embrace fear, work hard, and get out there and pitch, because that's a really important thing to get, your name, product, or service out there.
Great. Well, Jon, thanks again for your time. If you want to check out College Startup, make sure to check out collegestartup.org. Jon, thanks again.
Not a problem. I appreciate it.